I have a bit of a niche video for you today. I'm not sure how important this is, how interesting this is, but it is a thought that I hope is unique enough that's worth posting. And this, there's a bit of angst behind this, and there's a bit of a personal reason behind this, because I'm somebody who's experienced firsthand the failures of the so-called authorized legal system in enforcing the so-called human rights. And I've come to the conclusion that human rights do not exist. They're entirely fabricated concepts. They were not given to us by God. They can't exist. They're contradictory. We do have a set of rights as conscious beings. It's a sort of very simple primordial right, but it's not the freedoms that the so-called that are outlined in the so-called human rights. So we live in a world where there will be tyrants. There will be people who impose their will on you. You cannot live your life without your so-called human rights being absolutely trampled on, and that's why I would say that these are completely fictitious, and the legal system that exists to protect them will always fail. So you do have an ability. You do have an ability as a human to do what thou wilt, and that is your actual right as a conscious being, is to do what thou wilt. So do what you can. If you can be a tyrant, if you can trample on other people's human rights, that's good for you, and that's in your right to do that. If you want to resist a tyranny, that's good for you, and that's in your right to do that. But you are not automatically entitled to have freedoms. You're not automatically entitled to have any sort of power, even over your own mind. You don't have bodily autonomy. You don't have freedom of speech. In America, we have a good amount of freedom of speech, but it's definitely not absolute. Of course, there's always going to be situations where, oh, well, you can't say that. You can't start this political movement. We're going to deplatform you if you say this. We're going to spy on you and try to arrest you if you say this and you try to start this movement. There's always going to be situations like that because of national security concerns. If you say something that threatens the established tyranny, which is rightful, they're going to come after you, as they should. And that's basically it. That's basically all I have to say here. To give some examples, somebody who's a mental patient, just to give some examples about how your human rights are just absolutely and entirely fictitious, and they can be gravely and completely violated, is that somebody with a mental illness, as decided by some angry, vengeful, misintentioned people, can legally classify you as being mentally ill in the carnally driven, low consciousness legal system. So they can classify you as mentally ill and then use this to psychologically torture you and imprison you. And this includes injecting you with drugs in order to take thoughts out of your mind. And actually, if you try to leave the United States while this is happening, we have the right to travel. And so, of course, we're supposed to have the rights over our own minds, the rights over our own bodies. But as a mental patient, you actually have absolutely none of these. You can be confined, injected with drugs that destroy your mind, that deactivate your mind. They will try to insert and remove thoughts from your mind. And if you try to leave the U.S. while this is happening, they will send people across the borders internationally to bring you back here so they can continue this treatment. So that's just a bit of the personal experience as behind why I'm posting this video about the complete fallibility of these so-called rights and the so-called just legal system. Which is that things like that happen, and it's supported by your civil society. It's supported by your free society, as well as a litany of other tortures and things of that nature. But I don't want to get too personal here. I genuinely believe that everything that happens in this world is just because of the simple rule of do what thou wilt, not because of some justice in some inherent human rights that everyone receives. The legal system in the civil society does not actually operate. You are free to believe that it does, but it does not operate, even in the U.S., under the belief that everybody deserves freedom and liberty. That's just not the case. It operates under do what thou wilt. The tyrant can do what they can. The dissident can do what they can. Whatever you are able to do, whatever you do, that was your right to do. But you are not entitled to freedom. That is the whole video.